Hey everyone, hope you're having a very harmonious day and you're ready to go with me through a journey on my reflections. And just to give you an idea of how this comes about, you're seeing a little portion of my mind, which is something we're going to talk about. But you're seeing a little portion of my mind and how I daily have this, I'm just rambling in my head, and certain concepts and ideas sometimes get together in a way that I want to express it and I want to share it with people. So this is a product of that, me thinking about all this stuff. Now, you know me definitely for the Law of One and all the model that exists there. So a lot of that stuff is taken from there, but I'm saying this so it doesn't sound like, this is Law of One material. If anything, it's just reflections through what I know of the Law of One and other philosophies, and really, life in general, what we know so far. So if anything, this is just entertainment for me, hopefully for you too. And it's just, it's just a way of seeing reality from a different angle. So that's another way of saying that this is not anything new. This is not new information, but it's just playing, it's playing with the same toys that we have. And hopefully it'll make sense. It does make sense in my head, but it doesn't have to. And the idea, for other people, of course, is always to get this and kind of get, use the toys also the way I explain it so you can create your own game. It's nothing, it's not an academic study or anything. It's just ways to play with the concepts and ideas that we have of how reality works. So, funny enough, when I did this, I just recorded the video in Spanish and I said, you know what, I'm gonna record it in English too. Why not? This didn't come from a question I got, even though it answered somehow the question that I got one time when they said, if conscious is infinite and, infinity is infinity, then why have experiences? Like, what's the purpose of experience? And somehow, today, thinking, reflecting on all this stuff, I came out with this, this thing that you see here that I'm going to leave, abstract for now. You already know that there's, the rainbow there and that's densities of consciousness and so on, chakras if you want, whatever. You see whatever you want right now there, and we're going to get to that. But also I started thinking like, okay, how do I perceive this? How is this part of, the whole model that I'm thinking? And then I came up with this, I have to talk about the mind, because the mind is the one that is decoding reality. So from there, I said, okay, let me write the mind and how I see it, and it came out this way. Now, the reason why I'm explaining this is because it's funny. It actually came out as the left hemisphere of the brain, where, the masculine, the logical, the reasonable, or the reason, like that, all of that masculine energy, Funny enough, I wrote it all in black, black and white. That's just how we see it. And then from the other side, which is really what I picture in my mind, was this. And this is also representing, again, coincidentally, just happened, because I have to represent it in colors, is the creative side, is the feminine side that we all have, obviously. And, it's just like, my brain is here in two ways. My mind is this and this, and they're all gonna, of course, make sense when I explain it, at least my narrative of this journey that I'm gonna take you with me. So we have the mind. We're gonna talk about the mind because otherwise you'll be distracted with the words here, and I wanna get this out of the way, but it's also gonna feed this into understanding what I wanna talk about in terms of consciousness and our evolution, because this arrow actually means evolution, and I should probably write it down at least. Evolve. Okay, so we have the mind, okay, and I started my previous video talking about how anybody who is not into metaphysics or any of these studies, occult, mystery schools, whatever, somebody would understand and say, yes, I agree with you in those points. So I want to take you through that logical way of perceiving the mind. The first one that we know from the mind, this is all coming out of the mind, and processed by it. Everything is really processed by the mind. And this is why the study of the mind, or the study of your mind, is actually what's going to decode your reality. We start with perception. Perception is the one thing that we all agree we have, okay? We simply wake up and we have perception. We are just perceiving reality. Whatever, concepts, ideas, or definitions that we have of reality, that's secondary. The first thing is perception. If you're not perceiving anything, then you're not seeing it, then you're not experiencing it. And that's where we're gonna go. So perception is, it's actually the easiest, the foundation of this that I'm going to explain, and it also ties in with infinite consciousness. You can see why already. Because you are aware. You're simply aware. Now, through perception, we get into polarity. Why? Because especially third density, this physical, this space-time reality that we're living, reeks of polarity. Maybe not reeks. Sounds terrible, but it's impregnated with polarity. Because we can only perceive reality in this way through duality. For that we have polarities. We have all types of polarities. We have spatial polarity, which is dimensions, up and down, front and back, and so on. Solid and space. Those are physical polarities. And we have moral polarities as good and evil. We have the most known for us, ethical polarities, which is positive or negative, service to others or service to self. These are polarities that are impregnating, like I said, reality. And they are necessary. They are a part of the mechanism of the mind so we can perceive reality. It's simple as that. Nobody can deny that. Do you perceive things, as superior or inferior? Yes, there you go, it's polarity. Do you perceive things as good or bad? Of course you do. That's polarity. Do you perceive yourself, in whatever way? We're talking about polarity, the same thing. Okay, and that's what our mind decodes, obviously, that the ego is completely related there. Our perception of free will is also there. It all has to do with polarity. Polarity is simply something that, as contrast, you can perceive it itself. Duality, okay? And that's what we want to go to in non-dual state of consciousness, which we're gonna get to in this explanation. That's the point. So, through perception, we experience or see polarity. I'm not gonna use the word experience, but through perception and polarity, we find experience. That's how we experience anything, because we have a contrast into which I can see myself. I am a male and she's a female, so if we want to procreate, then the male needs to go into the female and then we have babies. It's the only way, right? So we perceive polarity so we can have experiences. The only way to have a baby is that way. All right, I'm taking out all the clinical stuff that they do, which kind of synthesizes the whole thing. It just takes out the real connection there. I'm not gonna say it should exist, but it really makes things more human. All right, in any case. Experience is something that we have through polarity, and obviously if we're perceiving it or not. If we are not perceiving it, then we're not having experience. If we're perceiving it, then yes. And polarity is necessary for that experience. Now, the majority of people are stuck here, and that doesn't mean that they don't experience catalyst. They do experience catalyst, but they're not fully aware of the purpose of catalyst. We may know the purpose of perception, obviously. It's inherent in us. We may inherently know that polarity exists, and that's how, I admit all that stuff. Experience is something undeniable. We all have experiences. That is undeniable. However, catalyst is a word that you may say, I don't know what that means. And this is where we abandon the physical, logical mind into something that needs purpose. Because catalyst means the acceleration of something, of a process. And in this case, we're talking the process of evolution. Evolution of what? Physical beings? Yes, in a way. That also. But we're talking about soul evolution. We're talking about metaphysical evolution. And that evolution is what we'll see that goes obviously into infinity. God, the creator, source, the origin, whatever you want to call it. And that is where, like I said, most people are aware of this, but they're unaware of this. And that's fine. This is all part of it's not going to avoid catalyst. It's just that they're not aware of it. And it's not going to obliterate the mind. I mean, the mind is still perceiving. And the exchange of the mind and consciousness, infinite consciousness, is really what's going to, it's the whole purpose of this. The whole purpose of this is this exchange, which I'll get to. But catalyst, again, is that perceived experience as something that we can use for our evolution. And for that, we need to know who we are, because if we don't know who we are, then we don't know where are we evolving to. Now, the first hint that goes into evolving is knowing that you're not a physical being. And this is something that, for us, that maybe we are very familiar with all metaphysics and, the soul and spirit and spirituality in general. To us, it's obvious, but for the majority of people, it's like, what do you mean we're not physical beings? I obviously identify with this physical being that has a story and has a past and will have a future. And in fact, I've been chasing my future all my life. I will get to the future one day, and this is how eventually all this collapses into catalyst. But in any case, I digress. The point is that there is catalyst for growth into the evolution of the inevitable, because the inevitable is your union or your unity with all that it is, which is the universe. And how much you want to delay it, that's your game. And it's fine, we all have different games, because that's the purpose, as we'll get to as well. So this is what the mind processes. This is what the mind is using all the time. And polarity exists actually in all densities of consciousness until we reach 6th density of consciousness. That's where polarity rapidly disappears and we begin getting more into unity. We're getting to that point of perception as unity and not polarity. So experiencing catalyst starts losing its purpose as we approach, which I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, as we approach infinity. We don't need that. We're already at that point of absorbing the creation in a holistic way, in a whole way. We're not separating anything. Everything is just magnificent. It's just this big wow of thing that's happening. And I am it, okay? All right, so that's the mind. The mind's purpose is this. Now, let's go into the female side of things, the creative, flowing, beautiful. See how male, female, woo, but they both need each other. The beauty, the logical. All right, so in this little thing that I have here, I said, you have chakras, densities, energy centers, whatever, rainbow here. What I actually mean is densities of consciousness. Here, I want to use it as density of consciousness, even though we'll bring it down to human level. But densities of consciousness, okay, and this is the creation. I want you to see the creation here. This is the infinite creator consciousness, okay, having this one thing that it's called the cosmos, the universe, the creation. And what's the purpose of this? Why would infinite consciousness wants to, experience itself? Well, first, we need to go back to the mind, because our mind is definitely connected to the one creator. It's not separate. Nothing is separate. But this is the decoding part of the creator. This is the process in which the creator is experiencing everything. And it's, again, through this. So the creator says, I want to experience myself. But for that, it needs to become aware of itself. And this is the first distortion. It becomes aware of itself, free will, and it says, woo, I want to enjoy this. I want to, I want to see myself. However, it cannot see itself in infinity because everything is contained there. So for that, it needs to create an illusion. It needs to create a dreamlike state in which it separates itself and it gets so absorbed by its own illusion that it forgets that it is infinite. For that, it needs to feel itself finite. Finite existence is in this reality, or rather this illusion of the creator. So that's why it created this. Now, infinite consciousness does not mean infinite experience. Infinite experience is, however, included in the creation, in the illusion. Infinite experience only happens here, and it feeds consciousness to know itself. This is why in previous octaves, at least the previous octave according to Ra, we didn't have the male and female polarity. That didn't exist back then. Don't ask me how we did it. I don't know how we did it, literally. How did we do it? I don't know. But Ra says that in the previous octave, if I remember correctly, that's the polarity that didn't exist, female and male. We inherited that for this creation. So now we experience male and female, and we know how fun that is. So you see, thanks to those experiences, who knows what we're going to create in this octave that the creator is going to absorb once again. It's going to collapse into itself and say, wow, let's make another one. Let's now include this and that, and now all the logoi will be spread around in the new, portion of the universe, which is the all mind, going beyond here. But that is really what's happening, So in any case, that's how the creator knows itself and creates even more and more. It's an infinite, of course. There are infinite creations, or at least that's what we are inclined to think. We don't believe there could be a finite point of, this is just, we're having fun forever, So you better enjoy your reality. You better do it. Otherwise, no worries. When you die, you'll figure it out and say, of course, I was supposed to have fun. I was supposed to enjoy this. I didn't. I'll come back. Okay, so what I want to explain here as densities of consciousness is that the creator is doing this. And the first one, the purpose of the creation also, this is the first rule, and I have here love, right? Love is the thing. Now, there is one love that I want to talk about here because in my society, I know how this is interpreted. And if not, then I'll just want to expand on it. Love as passionate love is not the love that we're talking about. This is a confusion that comes along, very normal, very common. When people say, I don't know, I need to love other people. Like, I don't know, man. I don't have those inclinations. Or even, just, I don't know, I don't want to love, things that I don't consider. We're not talking about that love. That's passionate love. That's love. I love you so much that I can die for you. Like hold on. What are you obsessed about? That's scary. Don't love me that way. There's an imbalance there, obviously. So this love that we know here in our romantic society, it's not the love that I'm talking about. It's not that passionate love. I'm talking about this love that comes in the green. Love, unconditional. Unconditional love. That's the one I'm talking about. Because that is the one that accepts everything as itself. See, there is no way you can hate a portion of reality, because it would be like hating a finger. Some people may hate themselves too, but you see where that ends. So hating a portion of you, it's only, you're just not wanting to be that. And I guess that's fine. Some people say, I don't want to have this hair, or I don't want to have this, or I don't want to have this color, or whatever. You're rejecting reality. You're rejecting yourself. In the same way, we're rejecting the world. We're rejecting whatever. As we come into acceptance that we are everything, then this unconditional love is not something that you seek. It's something that just is born out of you. It just evolves. See, that's evolution. Evolve, maybe, right? If you read it backwards, it's almost like evolve there. Love evolves. So that's the thing. That's the love we're looking for. Now, this love, we're said over and over again, that is present everywhere. But why do we have 4 density of consciousness then? Well, the thing is that this is the binding agent of all everything, the whole creation, the balance point. And that, if we remember that each density of consciousness actually has a subdensities, 7 subdensities. Best example, 7 chakras within the yellow density of consciousness that we are right now. Third density has 7 subchakras or 7 subdensities. That means that what's binding this is love. Just like what's binding the whole creation is love as well. And if we go into every single density of consciousness, love is the binding agent. Love as something that is naturally to occur. Now let's explore that part. Red is the density of the formless into the form. We have the 4 elements, like fire, air, earth, and water. And those 4, for them to materialize, to manifest, they need to find cohesion within themselves. All those elements and 4 minerals, those are the minerals saying, hey, let's all hang out together. Why? Because we love each other. Then air obviously hangs out with itself, and so on. Now, these 4 elements realize and say, we are in love with each other too. So we're gonna form basic molecule material stuff. And then it goes into creating molecular structures and so on. And then these molecules say, whoa, we're in love as well. Let's create something that is something like DNA. Yeah, that sounds fun. So now we're getting from the formless to the form, and from the form to life, which is mineral life. If you didn't know, quartz are crystals actually are almost second density, or are second density as well. And you can see the regular pattern that they have. They're all like so neatly paired with each other, just like it's a party. It's a mineral party there. So in the same way, in second density, we find animals. DNA is evolving, it's going, and it's just, going through this dance and, finding each other. What do we find? Animals, they get together, they form these groups that we have all kinds of names for it. Birds, our flocks, and then we have fish, which are schools of fish or shoals. I forgot what they're called them. Then we have whatever, all kinds of animal get together in different, the pack, my wolf pack, right? So they get together. That's love. What's binding them? It's love. It's the same thing. And then, we grow into mammals. I always use mammals. It's not only mammals, but you can see how mammals are a lot more loving than reptilians, for example, or reptiles. I suppose reptilians. No offense, reptilians who are benevolent and in the positive path, not the reptilians who are negative. So that we find that there is a transition between love of the pack, love of your people, and elephants, dolphins, whales, and so on. All mammals seem to exhibit this. But then we get into eventually third density consciousness, which again the planet created, which is us. It decided to go with the primates because they were so beautiful, and hey, just said this is going to be my humans, and here we are. Now, what is the difference? If you see the level of love seeking that comes from first density keeps changing over the densities, and now in third density we are supposed to transcend our tribal pack, flock, whatever. We only hang out with our own people. We hang out with everybody now. We hang out with the planet, with the water. Life in general is just an experience. That's what we're supposed to do. And what we find is love in the sense of loving everything. See, now we're coming to a different level of love, which is accepting that everything is you. You are the universe. Why? Because we have a consciousness. This is what awareness of ourselves. This is third density consciousness. Second density does not have awareness of itself. This is why if you have pets, you are teaching them through love. You're teaching them that they have an identity. And from there, they're going to create their ego, and the ego is going to feed the mind and the whole thing that goes into third density consciousness. We make them evolve into third density. But now in third density, we have the thing that we're going to say, okay, we're all one, we're all, the same, so let me not kill you, please, let's not do that. Let me not chop my finger, let me not do these things that are, just natural. See, it's not a commandment, it's just a realization. You don't want to hurt yourself. When you become the planet, you say, oh, great, I don't want to hurt myself. When you become the cosmos and you say, hey, I don't want to hurt anybody, I just want to enjoy this. Bliss comes out of that. And now we get into the true love. This is the first point in which we can start doing spiritual work, because now we're transcending from the physical, red, orange, and yellow, to the metaphysical, to the spiritual, green, blue, and indigo. I don't have an indigo, but you know what I mean there. So that is the spiritual, and that's how we evolve. The rest is just finding balance in the different densities of how you balance love, because unconditional love, and I don't want to make this, a video about densities of consciousness. There's a lot explaining the law of one there. If you guys want me to explain densities of consciousness, I will do it. Of course, just leave me a comment and we'll see how much interest there is. But this is just a reflection I had. So in any case, finally we get into what's permeating the whole universe, which is the violet ray, which is the consciousness of the creator itself. And this is infinite consciousness. So we get into that point, and this is, the wow, we, us, celebrating the whole creation. And love being the binding agent of everything, that is what makes catalysts evolve. See, love is going to make catalysts. Whatever catalyst we get, just treat it with love, unconditional love. It's acceptance. Whatever happened is great. This is part of my evolution. I am not this physical being. I am a soul in evolution, and the only way is unconditional love. There's no other way. Whoever tells you that, it's probably a negative one that says, oh, just concentrate on the physical. You're a very physical person. So in any case, that's the evolution into infinite consciousness. Now, you see, consciousness needs to have this so it can experience itself. And some people would say, well, why go through the process of that? I would never do something like that. I'm such a, whatever, I would do things different. But you're being very cynical if you say that. I'll tell you this, no offense. But take a look at this. If your mind you have your mind, right? Nobody can access your mind, it's only you. Daily, you are creating scenarios, you're creating people, characters in your life, whether they're real or not, you're creating them in your mind. And you're playing with that. You're projecting the future, you're remembering the past, and you know that all of that is a construct of your mind. You see any similarity here? No? Well, take a look at this. You're having experiences in your mind that you're not having here in the physical world. You're having a perception of mind, right? Through the same process of polarity, because you're saying, let me weigh this. How do you weigh something? In a scale, right? Up or down. So you have polarity there. And then you're gonna have experience, mental experiences. And then what comes next? You're gonna possibly derive some sort of catalyst. What does that sound like? It's your mind, right? So you're creating all that in your mind, not the physical world, and you're doing this for a purpose. Now, why are you putting your thoughts through that process, through that torture? It's not a torture at all. You're having projections of the mind, which is very helpful. So in essence, you're doing the same thing. Your mind is producing the same creation, but inside you, and for the same idea, because you want to have an experience so you can evolve. Simple as that. Our mind is recreating the whole creation at all times, and it depends, of course, in the direction in which we want to create our universe. You are the creator of your own reality. This is how you do it. This is how you perceive reality. This is how you manifest it. And through that is that you can see that the purpose of the creator is to do the same thing. It's doing the same thing you're doing, because you are the creator as well. So everything resolves itself. And if you are very honest with yourself, you're going to know that all your actions, your attitudes, your personality, everything that you strive to do in life is guided by this. If you're dishonest, then you would lie and say, no, I'm not looking for love. I'm looking for, self-benefit. And that's fine. That's an illusion you can play. You can play all your life separation. That's cool. You will be advancing to some point in the negative path until you realize like, oh, oops, nope, I actually want this. So you go into this love and not this love. Nothing wrong with this. Passionate people, it's all fine. So you see, this is the process. Now, finally, let me talk about the transaction that exists between mind and infinite consciousness. You see, one of the first principles we get from studying the mind is that you are not that. You are not the mind. Okay, the mind is a process that is going for you, so you can have all of this. It's a tool in the creation. Okay, but you are not the mind. You are infinite consciousness. We have a very distinct, not a very distinct, we're very close identity of consciousness and mind. And the purpose of meditation really is to realize that you are simply consciousness. Consciousness does not have any sort of judgment, doesn't have any sort of, separation or nothing. Consciousness is just there perceiving everything. It's just like, wow. It's that wow in you that's saying this is, but it's not even saying that. For me to say what consciousness is or infinity is just like Ross said, we cannot put a definition into it. Any definition is by default wrong. It's like the Tao. The Tao cannot be explained, cannot be said. It cannot be described. In Buddhism, the same thing. So we have this idea that this cannot be explained. However, it's there. It's you. It is you. That is you. This is not you. The mind is a process. And so the idea is that the mind feeds consciousness because the mind is doing all of this. It's a process. The mind is a process that is feeding consciousness all these experiences, catalysts, and so on. And it's just adding up to the ecstasy of consciousness. And that's a great way of seeing the world. That's a great way of seeing life, seeing it from this eye and not from this eye. You are not that eye. You are this eye. You and I. So we have the mind feeding that. But what else is infinite consciousness sort of providing to the mind? Well, once you realize that you are not this and you say, oh, this exists, that's beautiful, and you start seeing the mind from a different angle, you will benefit from this distance, let's call it, this disassociation, wrong association. Through this association, we get rid of that, but we don't make it separate from us. We use it for its purpose. And the difference here in practical terms is that it's not the same to play a character and believe you and feel the emotions and be so involved and invested into this character that you are. That's a way of playing the game, sure. But there's a difference between playing the character and knowing that you're not the character, because this is just a transient way of consciousness to perceive itself. And it's a useful one. Just like you're not the mind, you're not the character. And so consciousness, when seeing yourself, when you see yourself from this point of view, then you can begin to see yourself from a different point of view as a sort of manifestation of the universe. You are the universe, right? What you're seeing, what people talk about, all the things that they say about you, all of that is a manifestation of the universe. Just like we can go out and judge a rock or a tree or a bird, and we can say all kinds of things. That's fine, but that bird will continue to be a portion of the universe, just looking at itself. That's another beautiful thing. The universe is observing itself through us, through rocks, through fire, through birds and reptiles and whatever, humans and interdimensional beings. That everything is just one big observation. And you see, this is where in psychedelic experiences and research and actually art, if you can see art, you will see, like psychedelic art, you will see that there is such a tendency to draw eyes. There are eyes all over the place. Whether the artist is aware of it or not, they have a tendency to draw eyes, to paint eyes. And that's because in the psychedelic experience, what you perceive is the awareness of everything. Everything is aware of itself, you know, in different points of consciousness, but they are aware. You know, things are aware. The whole universe is alive. And, you know, from that point, you can just see how this is all collapsing into just one I, which is what I wanted to convey. So hopefully this made sense to you. I don't think I missed anything. This is just, like I said, a journey through my mind and how I see things. And hopefully, like I said, you know, it kind of makes sense so you can also create something for yourself, or maybe adapt it to your model. I myself love doing this stuff. You know, whenever I hear or learn something new, this is what I do. So thank you so much for watching these videos. I enjoy a lot sharing them and talking about this stuff, and this is why I dedicated, you know, my life to do this. So again, I don't think I have anything else to say, but I love you. You know that. You are me, I am you, and I'll see you in the next video.